welcome back to another MSEM set review. This time we're looking at Sparks of a Multiverse.
Yep, from Cajun, right?
Yep, from Cajun. Not sure how many sets Cajun has in the format at the moment.
A bunch.
Quite a bunch, yeah. So Sparks is kind of an interesting set, just with how the kind of archetypes work out even. The Sparks has a lot of Planeswalkers.
Yeah, I mean, it's an all-rare set, too.
Yeah, 33 Planeswalkers, and reference, if you want to know how many creatures the set has, well, it has 26. So, straight up more Planeswalkers than creatures. Also has a lot of studies, 32 studies.
That's more than the number of studies that's in the format currently, right?
Yeah, so very interesting in that regard. Starting out though, I think we'll focus on more the Planeswalker side.
Because, I mean, Sparks of a Multiverse, it's in the name. It's a Planeswalker set.
Yeah. So Sparks has a dual land cycle, ETB, a loyalty counter on a Planeswalker you control.
Yeah, that's, I mean, and you have all 10 colors, or 10 color pairs.
So obviously, tap dual lands are not exactly what you want to be playing most of the time. But at the same time, getting loyalty counter on a Planeswalker is really high value. Most like immediate things to be thinking about is like quick ults. So Ico normally has a very fast ult.
Yeah, and if you can alt Ico against certain decks, they just completely fold.
Yeah, so if you can turn 5, play Ico, play a loyalty land, immediate ult, and then you're good to go. Or even just play Ico in 4+, and then you can play a loyalty land, ult, and keep Ico around, which is nice. You also have really all Planeswalkers appreciate loyalty just because that's how Planeswalkers work. There's a couple more that work like really well with these. So Alexa, for example, with that +1, letting you play additional one. So then 2 play Alexa, +1, play Loyalty Land for the counter on Alexa, +4 loyalty, and then next turn play Loyalty Land and ult Alexa.
Yeah.
In ideal circumstances. But the cost is pretty high. As we mentioned, dual lands are not great. Tap lands also not great. Do you think that this has much merit in like normal decks, so to speak?
Honestly, not really, because you're actually you're kind of investing a lot into playing these lands. Like you have to make sure you have a Planeswalker on board before you play this thing. It also kind of messes up sequencing because you usually want to play your tap lands first.
Yeah, but you can definitely afford some amount of tap lands. I mean, Mirgate is really commonly played, though Mirgate is a really powerful card. I mean, in blue-white rules, for example, I was playing Lonely Area as a manland.
Yeah. I mean, but the thing with those lands is that you can play them first and then not care about them.
Yeah,
whereas with the loyalty lands, again, it's a sequencing problem.
But you don't need to like value off them to be like okay, because if you do have so much value, if you do get it off, then like the value works out even if you sequence them poorly, right?
Yeah.
Just with if you get an Ico ult against certain decks, wow, that's really exceptional. And all the deck will be able to stop you from holding Ico. So if you just play like a couple loyalty lands, a couple of rights fields,
hey, it even makes flavor sense.
Then you can alt Ico more confidently. Obviously, Mirgate and Lonely Area, manlands in general are pretty high value, so maybe a bit sketchy. There's also Spark Laboratory, which does similar things, but doesn't have the sequencing problems you're mentioning.
And it's any color, so you can just play 5-color Superfriends.
Yeah, the only problem is that it only casts Planeswalkers.
I mean, if you only play Planeswalkers, then that's not a problem.
Yeah, but I feel like, generally speaking, it is a problem if you only play Planeswalkers.
I mean, we have enough Planeswalkers across the curve to just curve out with Planeswalkers. I mean...
You're one-mana Planeswalkers?
We do have one-mana Planeswalker, right?
I mean, technically, yes, but your options are pretty slim. I think it's just the one. Yeah, just Edith, which not the best Super Friends card.
Okay, but lots of decks don't have turn 1 play. We do have a bunch of turn 2 Planeswalkers.
I mean, do we?
Yeah, so like Artie, I mean, is that fine? That's fine, right?
Yeah, so like Hemley is definitely very good. I played a lot of Hemley. Just straight up as a card you play. -2 is very valuable. And getting an extra loyalty counter on Hemley means you must twice, which is very nice. But outside of Hemley, it's maybe a bit suspect. And Kunal is okay, I guess. Mayan is okay removal. So maybe there's...
I mean, Alexa's also fine.
Yeah, well, okay.
So you play Alexa with your loyalty lands, right? And then
Yeah, well, okay. So the problem is that if you play Hamley and Alexa, your mana seems pretty aligned on having Spark Lab.
Well, no. You're also playing the 5-color legend lands because all planeswalkers are legends.
Do the Legend lands actually pass Planeswalkers?
Good question.
Uh,
Yes, it does.
so Q does. May Voice Tower also does.
Yeah, see, we have a deck here, and then you just play. I don't know. You play Nebula, and then you also play.
Yeah, I guess at that point it's 16. But yeah, maybe. Obviously, very bad at instant speed interaction, but at the same time, you do have stuff, and like I think there's enough planeswalkers that you can like get around that. I mean, like Felice,
Yeah,
that's most combo decks, and whatnot. It seems like at least reasonable.
yeah.
And there was like super fun stuff in the set. Obviously, you don't just randomly put Boltlands and 32 planeswalkers without deploying them.
I mean, you could, but it wouldn't get into the format.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, you have Aki Study, which is definitely a super friends card. Probably that win more. Pocket X-Max is the number of planeswalkers you control well.
It's probably one.
Yeah, probably one, maybe zero. But I mean, if you do have planeswalkers, this is a 2-mana draw, 3 or more potentially. And Aki yourself is probably the most relevant one. Is that true?
But so it color flexes all your planeswalkers.
Yeah, so no, I'm looking mainly at the -3 and the -2 as like stabilizing tools.
Right.
Because you're not really getting Wrath on Planeswalkers before like 5 mana.
Yeah, so it lets you wipe your opponent's board. I mean, it's colorless too, so it gets you out of color screw.
Yeah, though, as we mentioned, there's a good amount of land. So, yeah, seems at least somewhat reasonable. There's also, Moon Chaser in Sparks, which does a kind of fog type thing with the +1.
And then you
Gideon type thing, I guess.
Choose a player for planeswalker other than and then prevent it from being attacked by turn. Yeah, that seems pretty nice.
The +1 also is a lock with Kaelin. You can choose yourself and then play Kaelin and bounce and
right.
And the 0 in Superfriends obviously has a really good utility.
So you can just you can make sacrifice herself to alt another planeswalker, basically.
Yeah, basically. It is probably a bit hard to actually get off, just because, well, 3-mana planeswalker with 3 loyalty that doesn't affect those cells is kind of sketchy, but if you're already wanting a fog type effect on 1+1, it becomes a bit more reasonable. And then there's also there's another loyalty-esque land, Moonchaser meta. Do you play this over the tap dual lands if you're in Super Friends?
Well, no. If you're in 5-color Super Friends, I don't think you can play. I don't think you can play any of those lands because the color fixing problem.
So if you can manage to get down to like blue, white, X Super Friends, do you play it over the dual lands?
I think so because this thing has less sequencing problems than the dual lands.
Yeah, but at the same time, like for mana to get a loyalty counter, it feels kind of good more.
I mean, it's on each planeswalker, right?
So, yeah, but like if you have two planeswalkers in play, it feels like you're already in a great spot.
Right. So
and you can also only play so many dual lands.
Right. So I guess maybe you play it in addition. Is that fine? Is that too many tap lands?
Probably. I mean, if you're looking at playing I think past 6 tap lands, you really start looking sketchy even if you're skipping turn 1, which you probably are on a Super Friends deck.
Right.
So, and there are a lot of good tap lands you just want to play anyway. I can't imagine Super Friends has that many answers, like a Monument of Queens or whatever, so something like it. Or a Monument of Queens or a Counter Town.
Right. So you have to play yeah.
Pretty good. I think that's enough on Super Friends. There's obviously you can look through a lot of planeswalkers, and then you can find Headwind and do the lock that people did with Barton's Journal.
Barton's Journal. Like, if you want to see what creatures or what planeswalkers are good with the loyalty lands, just look at what Barton's Journal decks used to play.
Searching
your type
planes. A Barton's Journal.
Yeah.
I suppose this is a different Barton, huh? So you get the Barton's Journal decks were generally just in blue-white, and trying to just lock your opponent out, playing Water?
And Ico too.
Yeah, Ico helps the lock Wand of Ember's Pass. Is another good one. Also the +1 on Wanderer can get a really ridiculous amount of life.
And Superfriends, right?
Yeah, and Superfriends. Especially if you're with Flickering Wanderer.
Actually, Wanderer also lets you activate abilities of other planeswalkers. I didn't notice that, right? At Planeswalker.
Wanderer is actually just a pretty good planeswalker in general, even outside of Superfriends. So in Superfriends, obviously goes pretty hard. Moving outside of Superfriends, we have moving on from Superfriends stuff, we have this kind of normal card in the set. I guess isn't necessarily a normal card, but you have Heart's Reversal, which is what's the instant speed act treason?
Active aggression? No, Ray of Command.
Yeah, Ray of Command. So 2-mana Ray of Command, but gives the creature that you steal indestructible, which is a downside, weirdly. Also can't be used with active treason. I think Ray of Command could be. So this is potentially a really nasty card. Kind of like Fog plus removal spell almost, in a way.
Yeah. Unlike active fusion, you can't really make use of your opponent's attack triggers.
You can't. You'd be mainly using it for ambush blocking. But actually, you can make use of your opponent's attack triggers. If your opponent attacks with Infectious Ego, you steal it and then sacrifice it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. For people at home, what does Infectious Ego do? Yeah.
Sacrifice permanent when it attacks, roughly speaking.
Yeah. So basically, you attack, and then with a trigger on the stack, you steal it and then sack it to its own trigger.
Yeah, and that's a pretty massive swing.
Well, I mean, look, all it did was kill the ego for 2 mana.
Yeah.
Like you didn't, you couldn't get a 2-for-1.
Yeah, it doesn't 2-for-1. Though, like this largely doesn't 2-for-1 in general, but I think it is still like a pretty powerful effect just in how much it can stop. Because, like, yeah, you steal the ego, you can also just let the tree resolve and block and gain 4, right? Like,
sure.
Like the thing is that you'd be comparing it to Journey's End. I think would be the I think is the removal most people are playing.
I mean, isn't it like out of body experience?
I mean, I've always been pretty low on out of body experience. This one elemental does kill you quite often, and out of body experience also. I guess out of body experience is maybe a closer comparison than Journey's End, just because it doesn't also doesn't hit planeswalkers.
Yeah.
Which is kind of awkward. So maybe it's very limited in that sense. But in terms of just raw creature stoppage, it's probably pretty reasonable.
Is there anything funny you can steal?
Good question.
Like anything with sack effects or on block or damage effects? I guess you can steal your opponent's sack bowl and then sack it.
Yeah. So maybe it does end up being a bit too narrow in general. But it does maybe reduce the need for like a wrath or something along those lines, just because it does stop 2 attackers in one turn.
Well, I mean, it stops the attacks, but it doesn't deal with the other attacker.
It kills one thing, presumably.
Yeah. I mean,
it's like kill one thing, fog another thing.
I guess.
And like, I suppose ideally you'd be playing this with a sack outlet. Not that there's that many sack outlets.
I mean, there is 1-mana sack outlets in the format.
Yeah, but none that you probably want to be playing with in like a more controlling style of deck.
Yeah, I guess if you're going to play active treatment like effects with your sack outlets, you'd rather play the one with rerun, right?
Yeah, that's true. Which one is that called?
I forgot.
Communion.
Oh, Communion. Yeah.
And this is much more. This is just straight aggressive, as opposed to Heart's Reversal, which is solely defensive. Well, you can actually grab out your own stuff, give them indestructible, which is kind of neat. Are there any momentary blinks in that they return the card to the battlefield under the controller's control?
I don't think so, right? Because like MSEM was created after Wizards already switched over to using owner's control for blink effects.
Well, so you say that, but Taurus Confluence, exile target creature you control, then returns to the battlefield under your control.
Sure, a 5-mana steal creature.
Granted, it's maybe a bit on the narrow side. Let's see. Is there anything else? Glimmer Fox, Exile no. This I think steals it well, though kind of hard to.
I think like if it doesn't say that it's owner, right? If it doesn't say who it enters under.
I don't think it needs to specify. I would assume that Glen Fox is a controller because exiles can kill. So if you banish a priest, something that you stole, it would be under your control, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I promise.
Uh, yeah.
So maybe not the best example, but I guess we can move on.
Yeah. Okay. Open the Hive. So it's a 3-mana card that does something that in Cat Magic takes 4 mana to do, right?
Yeah, but maybe it's not all that great in Cat Magic, right? At least I can't think of any.
What's that card called again? Is it like Harvest Season?
Sounds right.
No, that's the one that ramps you.
It's from one of the Innistrad set.
Yeah, I know. Wait, green white? Are you sure it's green? I'm sure it's mono green. Yeah,
Second list.
yeah.
It's an instant.
Oh, okay. So I guess that it's not strictly better.
But in MSM we do have shifting lands, so
Right, shifting lands. How could I forgot?
Not how you search.
Shifting and then land, and like do minus shifting grove because that's your honorary shifting land.
Shifting Grove is my favorite shifting land.
I mean, it sees much more play than other shifting lands.
Yeah, so shifting lands obviously get a nerf. Do need to crack them on upkeep. Open the Hive doesn't care about that, unfortunately. You still do have you should know what this does.
What? Untouched Wilds?
Yeah.
I mean, Untouched Wilds is a lot worth after the shifting land nerf because you can't play a shifting land and then sack it immediately on 3.
Yeah, but imagine you just play Untouched Wilds, you get back more shifting lands, you crack them all, then you open the Hive, and they're even untapped. So you get to play Open the Hive again.
Wait, is this the new Rejuvenation as Rejuvenation?
Probably not, but it's not too crazy.
Okay, so how are you going to ramp out the shifting lands because Lager Reckless got nerfed?
You just hope the opponent doesn't kill you in time, I think, is the answer. It is definitely a bit on the expensive side. Obviously, for 3 mana, compete with stuff like Offie, which is pretty stiff competition.
The Recommissioned Gone Aeons for those of you at home.
Yeah. Also, it's maybe an argument to play this in more normal token decks, but I think it's I guess with Ramsey,
yeah, because Ramsey makes 2 tokens.
So you can Ramsey and then open the Hive, copy both the Adjudicate Ore and the Antelope, and the Adjudicate Ore gets another Antelope. You get 2 Antelopes and an Adjudicate Ore for 3 mana, which seems...
Yeah, and then if you play a second Open the Hive, then suddenly you're going exponential.
Yeah.
Wait, it's 3 mats. 3 mana is pretty easy to flash back.
That's true, but you're in white.
Well, wait, if you make a token copy of the thing that's flashing it back, then suddenly...
Yeah, I mean, most things do exiles, Kaone exiles. So I suppose if you have a token copy of Kaone and you have 3 you're making 3 mana off all the Open Hives, then you can just return it to hand and then go infinite that way.
I mean, making token copies of Kaone isn't too hard, right? Well, actually, no, right, Beacon got banned.
It's not trivial. It's definitely doable. But probably goes off reasonably hard. If you can schedule work, is also fetchable off Conjure Realities, which are nice. I mean, all those cards are.
Yeah, so it's fetchable off Conjure. It's fetchable off, or it's flashbackable off Fiery Truth Seeker.
Yeah, that point in 4 colors, which
it's almost like 8 sack except bad.
But moving on, we have Tireless Endeavor, which is artifact tutor, so just for something that costs 1 more than the highest cost artifact you have, and then you can put it in your hand.
Wait, does it have to be exactly X? Yeah,
it has to be exactly X.
Okay, that makes it a lot worse.
That is true. So you would need to be looking for stuff that will either just have a sack outlet, which I guess is pretty easy because this is a sack outlet.
Yeah.
So if you have 1, 2, 3, I guess, then you having 1 or 2 3s just because, then it's pretty straightforward. Oh well, hold on. No, you can manipulate X pretty easily, right? Because the X is locked in after you sack.
Yeah, it's once it resolves.
Yeah, so you can pretty easily manipulate it to get what you want, even if it is set.
Yeah.
So you have a 2-drop artifact that would make you 2 to 3, but you want a 2 or 1, I guess. Then you sack the 2, and then fetch it 2.
Sure. Okay. The bigger problem here is that it does not free cast the thing that tutors.
Yeah, so you would need to be pretty low down to the ground. I mean, you can do stuff like volatile stonework. Has pretty excellent synergy with it.
Right, you can just keep looping it.
Yeah, so you grab a stonework and then you sack the stonework to the Tireless Endeavor. The stonework kills something, and then you don't have any artifacts, so then you fetch another one. So what is like 3 mana per loop, kind of?
Yeah, I feel like like using it to just keep looping artifacts is probably the most efficient use out of it. Because if you're trying to go up the chain, then it costs way too much.
Yeah, probably. And you do have stuff like Terraformer's Globe.
It,
Terraformer's Globe, which is nice for color purposes and cantrips.
is Terraformer's Globe the only one mana card draw artifact now?
Yes.
Yeah.
But actually, maybe there aren't too many great just like artifacts you play.
I mean, you can also run Sealed Riftway as a sideboard option.
Yeah, a sideboard option. Now that doesn't draw an ETB, it's not anywhere near as easy to run.
There has to be a bunch of random one mana artifact hate or hate artifacts, right? Like Pithing Needle 2.
It's still in the format.
No, it's not. Okay, some sort of Pithing Needle like effect.
I don't know if there is.
You also have to do type artifact, right? Or
well, mana costs 1. Of them, most of the things that cost 1 are good. Harvest Sweeper is really solid as far as 1 mana artifacts go. See those for color cards.
Well, the problem is that it also costs mana to use. So like you're paying all this mana to tutor stuff, but not.
Yeah. But I mean, Harvest Sweeper finds lands too, so
Sure,
at least hitting
I guess.
You're at least hitting your land drops. And I mean, if the entire deck costs like 1 to 3, then like there's a point where you're gonna have 7 lands, and you're gonna be like, oh yeah,
right. Oh no, if your entire deck costs 1 or 3, then eventually you're gonna run out of things or you're gonna have too many things on board to sack in order to get your X down to 1.
Yeah, I mean, maybe don't always fetch 1. There's like some other stuff. Like I've always been a fan of Marble Room.
Oh yeah, that card.
I think there's also Alchemist something. Alchemist kit.
Yeah.
And then of course you have all the normal artifact stuff like Dawson. Because Dawson is a pretty powerful card. It's also in color, also gives you mana. Help out.
Yeah, you can stack your treasures to recast that thing.
And then also lets you manipulate X a bit more, the +1.
Yeah, so I mean, it seems interesting, but I feel like it's just not going to be playable because it costs too much for you to do all these tricky things.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, it's not efficient enough.
I don't know if it costs too much, but I do think it probably doesn't win fast enough.
Yeah.
Be a better way to put it. Just so that you're kind of spinning your wheels. And
it spins your wheels way too much.
Not quite able to like put your opponent into the dust.
I mean, it's sort of like the same problem that the Downhill Forge Master decks faced, right? Where it just doesn't win fast enough, even though it has all those toolboxy things that can do.
Yeah, I mean, you still do have Deathbit Trophy as a potential lock piece, because you like Deathbit Trophy plus Box.
Didn't Box get nerfed?
No.
Okay.
Plus Box, plus Phelan is a discard lock, because you can bounce Box that's holding a Deathbit Trophy on upkeep, on your opponent's upkeep.
Right, but then you're going back into the Barks, Kalen, Downhill Forge Master decks, and do those decks even have enough room to add in another slow, wonky tutor piece?
Yeah, I guess not. But I mean, you can play Endeavor instead of Forge Master, I suppose. This does fetch a lot more.
Right.
So, like, Kalen struggles with just, like, people beating you down, because, like, it's not the worst block, but it's not great. Endeavor fetching Stonework is pretty valuable in that sense.
Right. It's one more expensive than Forge Master, but it's repeatable, so yeah.
Yeah.
Upsides and downsides.
But moving on, we have Djinn's Trick, which has a lot of nice things going for it in like kind of minor ways. So just at baseline, choose a card name, reveal top 5. If you choose correctly, you get the card, and then you always draw a card on top of that. So if you choose correctly, it's a draw 2 kind of.
Is 2 mana draw 2 even playable in this format? The sorcery speed 2 mana draw 2.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like MSEM like card adventure spells are kind of like whack in general. You have like Not Far Far Away, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's instant speed draw 2. That thing's a sorcery speed draw 2.
Yeah, but no, the Djinn's Trick is you get the full cast off of Cane Dancer, which is really nice.
Right.
So Planet only draws 1 off if you Cane Dance with it. Djinn's Trick it gets the full effect. And if you do hit off Djinn's Trick, it is much better. than just a straight draw 2, I think, in general, because you're presumably naming something you want.
Right. What about Omnis Discovery?
Well, yeah, Honest Discovery is excellent, but also does need creatures, and also has the issue of you don't get the full value of Chain Dancer.
Right.
Djinn Trick, I suppose it's definitely worth mentioning that basic lands, you can name them with Djinn Trick, which I think you generally can't with my type cards.
Right.
So if you play like decent amount of islands, you need like 13, 14 anymore.
Now, what's the chance of hitting a basic off this thing just by naming a random basic?
Not like it that high, but it's like pretty reasonable.
So like you're drawing 1.5 cards on average then?
And so say you have 15 basics, about 80%.
Okay, so like 1.8 cards.
Yeah, 1.8. And it does get better because you can also play Seek Prophecy with it, because it reveals as opposed to looks.
Wait, how does Seek Prophecies help you again? Oh, well, right. You can flip. Right, you can flip Seek Prophecies. I thought you were going the other way around. And
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you can Seek Prophecy into Djinn Strike, but so there's kind of a plot advantage like loop here because you can like Djinn Trick, you can hit Seek Prophecy and like land, and then you can Cane Dancer like Djinn Trick, and then maybe hit more Seek Prophecies, and you have Seek Prophecies exile, and they find more Djinn Tricks, so Cane Dancers. So just with like those 12 cards, you have quite a bit of engine going.
You're playing like mono basics, right? Because otherwise you're not going to hit Djinn Trick as often.
Yeah, that is definitely where it kind of falters as like a strategy, just because like basic lands are not that good of it's a bit weird to say that.
I mean, you can just minus like hard cards, right? Just name what you need and hope you get it.
Yeah, I mean, that is, I think, a legitimate upside of this over cards like Planet Far Far Away. Because yeah, you can say, yeah, okay, I'm gonna name Setting Sun because yeah, I need a Wrath.
And if you miss,
well, you still draw a card. You still can't trip. You're still 5 cards deep into what Setting Sun, or 6 cards, I guess, because you draw.
Yeah, and if you miss, it doesn't matter because you already lost.
True. But even if you're just like against aggro and you say, okay, well, I'm going to need a Wrath in 2 turns, I'm going to turn 2 play Djinn Trick, I have plenty of lands, I'm going to name Sonic Suns.
Right.
I'm going to name End of Days.
And then even if it's just a 1 or 2 and 60, you're still fine with that?
Yeah, I mean, preferably it's more. Like, obviously, I think the more natural thing would be naming Cane Dancer if you already have enough lands, for example.
Right.
Where you can kind of do a bit of adjustment there, depending on what you need.
Also, I love how we're not even talking at all about the intended use of that card.
Oh, right, yeah. You can also use this with studies and archives.
Actually, wait, it's random order. You have to shuffle your archives after you cast this.
I recommend not using this with archives in that case, or using it with very small archives.
Well, actually, or you can just use it with Scry or other sorts of or anything else that lets you know what's on top of your deck.
Yeah, so it's only easy accessible Scry.
I'm pretty sure there's a Planeswalker that plus is on a Scry. Well, I mean, yeah, Scry's on a plus.
Yeah, I'm thinking stuff like Castle Venturous and Cannon, Scryland, or Scry on.
Does Teamer Falconeer still Scry? Oh.
Not sure if Falconeers would be great with this. I guess I can do a quick search.
Well, actually, isn't there that one drop that Scries on EP?
Well, yeah, but you don't want to go too far into it. So Condescend is...
I don't think that's playable.
Condescend is like better than you'd think. Though, yeah, Sinkhole does take some amount out of it.
Yeah, Fairy Infiltration.
Yeah, okay, you can, but I think you're definitely committed to playing it in a more controlling style.
Journey's End? Your opponent's Journey's End.
Kind of.
Opt.
Opt doesn't really work because it unsizes you.
Is there Serum Vision?
Ready for it.
Oh, right.
Well, though, then you're also playing Seek Prophecy, Djinn Trick, ready for it.
Hey, that's all your Cane Dancer targets now.
I suppose so.
Wait, what's that card do? Seek the Future. Oh, I never saw it. Okay.
Yeah. Sites Beyond, I guess, is reasonable. The studies in scientific theory is. Yeah, I think studies in scientific theory could work.
Spell Thought. Actually, yeah. Wait, no. Orchestrate goes in the other way up now. Yeah, Orchestrate triggers unresolved these days. Mine doesn't work.
Yeah, I think studies in scientific theory is probably the best. This I did see a bit of play just as like a sideboard option for like grindy decks. And if you're playing Seek Prophecy, Djinn Trick, Cane Dancer, you're definitely going to be able to trigger Eureka every turn.
Yeah.
So you play turn 1 Silent Studies, and you get the Progress, turn 2, you Scry, you Djinn Strick, guarantee the draw 2.
Also, I see Unraveling down there.
Yeah, Unraveling does it, though. Generally, I think the first mode on Unraveling, you use the cancel.
And Jaled.
Yeah, Zelid also scries. Zelid is probably closest to
No, it doesn't just scry, it archives.
Yeah, that's true. Also, fortunately, it's pretty small archive, so you only need shuffle 2 cards, which is pretty easy. Amelie Ginstrick does compete quite a bit with Do Your Offering Pools, which also reveals top 5.
Yeah, but you don't have to guess.
Yeah, you don't have to guess, but also it's just Stone Impulse. It's never going to draw you more than 1 card, but it also does do Episode 0, which...
It wins you the game.
Yeah. I think that's enough on Ginstrick. Now we have Price of Memories, which...
It's a counter spell. Actually, so fun fact, back when Korea's Exploration was getting into the format, we had a card called Forget.
Just don't forget.
Yeah. So this thing used to cost blue. And apparently Council decided that it was too powerful for the format, so it got nerfed to 2 and a blue.
Or undesired 1, whatever.
Yeah, so how likely is it for Price of Memories to tax for 4? Because at that point, it's basically a card that's too powerful for MSEM, or I guess whatever the council says.
Yeah, So I think generally with a lot of these scaling counter spells, the main issue with them is that they don't actually work on on turn 2. I don't know if that's true with Price of Memories, because I think you can generally get at least 1 card in opponent's grave, hopefully, by turn 2. Just off fetch lands. Maybe that's even sketchy.
A lot of decks don't play fetch lands.
Yeah, I guess nowadays there's a lot of decks that
even the deck that you're running currently.
Yeah, mono red doesn't play them, mono black doesn't play them, mono white doesn't play them. Mono decks don't generally play fetch lands, as it turns out.
Yeah.
And most decks are on 4 Nebula, so they can definitely fix their mana without fetch lands.
So that means you have to aggressively get cards into their yard.
Yeah, so Mill is definitely a deck that is pretty reasonable. We'll get to Mill in a second. I don't think Mill actually wants counterspell, period.
Which is weird. Is it weird?
I don't think so. I think there is definitely a bit of reverence around counterspell, I guess. It's counterspell is obviously a great card.
Yeah.
At the same time, you don't necessarily need a hard counterspell most of the time. And I think the main reason that this be really good, or Forget would have been pretty good, if not great, too great in the context of MCM, is Cane Dancer, being able to flash it back.
Right, but this is also Cane Dancerable. Yeah,
but the problem is that Cane Dancer decks probably aren't able to have this work on turn 2 that often.
What if you're playing Cane Dancer in mill deck?
I mean, sure, but at that point, how many cards can you play that don't mill?
I'm pretty sure there's lots of Cane Dancerable mill cards.
Yeah, but I think you start to get kind of diluted and kind of start spending too much effort getting this counterspell working.
Yeah.
When you're already playing single, right?
Yeah.
So, and we also do have access to Lost Through Dreams now. As a hard counter on turn 2, which arguably does what this does. I mean, obviously, you would take the cost more than.
Well, you take the cost some of the time.
Yeah, or non-creatures. But there are good non-creatures. There's a reasonable amount of creatures being played as high-end. And I think blue, obviously you do be playing white, but I think most control decks do end up playing white.
Yeah.
In general. And this type of mana cost is, I think, generally easier than this type of mana cost. So, I don't know.
Okay, let's talk about the actual mill cards.
So, we have couple of new mail cards. I think the most notable one is Blank Pages,
which looks extremely efficient.
Yeah, so Blank Pages is kind of nuts. I did play Mill a little while back. Mill does definitely have some just general what are you doing kind of in MSEM kind of stuff, with stuff like Profane say just straight up working as MD deck preventer. If you would draw a card, you can instead not draw a card.
Ooh.
As well as Fire Weaver being relatively common. I don't actually know how much of a deal Fire Weaver is, as opposed to just decks that play Fire Weaver being really good against Mill, in the general sense of Burn being good against Mill.
Yeah, but I don't think 20 extra cards really helps.
Yeah, definitely doesn't do it. But Blank Pages does do a lot to help out Mill, because I think one of the things that Mill kind of struggled with was actually win the game, where they could actually control the game incredibly well with Spelling Secrets being a ridiculous draw engine, because Spelling Secrets plus Compelling Pariah, which is
best mill creature in the format because apparently, or actually, you do have a crab, but I don't think it's better than Compelling Pariah.
Yeah, so Pariah triggers a lot of individual mills, and that's really important for Spelling Secrets, because you get a trigger once each turn, both on your turn and your opponent's turn.
Yeah, and that's also really important for blank pages because it triggers off individual mills.
Yeah, so now Compelling Pariah is like 3 times as much with a single blank pages.
That's the same amount of mill that you get from a crab landfall, right?
Yeah, and that's triggered on every spell cast, including opponents.
And we also have a crab, right?
Yeah, and the crab is also benefits a lot from blank pages, because like it also wants a god type. The artifact gets you additional mail off hoarding crab.
And then it also gets you 2 additional mills because the effect.
Yeah, so just land hoarding crab. Blank pages is 5 per turn. Yeah, definitely more prominent with compelling crab. We'll note that blank pages does not work with Flotsam Jetsam, as it puts them at the bottom.
Wait,
from the bottom.
do people even play Flotsam in mill decks?
Yes. Flotsam is relevant for milling yourself, so you get Unraveling in Yard, which is nice. Unraveling helping you survive longer, and you also get cards in Yard with Speed of Darkness.
Which use Speed of Mill's win condition, or I mean, Big Finisher.
Yeah. No, I think you can definitely just go on blank pages and say, I'm gonna kill you pretty fast.
Okay, but how do you deal with Profane Emissary?
You can play Title Spite. Like, I will say that Mill has a lot of options for interaction. Sinkhole being great in the deck. Just generally spelling secrets, giving you so much card advantage makes a lot of cards a lot more reasonable.
Actually, isn't there that red creature that damages on mill?
Yeah.
Like, you can just go red instead of black, right?
Yeah. The melee Cackling Tormentor doesn't actually appreciate blank pages at all, because one more.
Oh. Well, I mean, it's still fine, right? It's you're still doing a bunch of individual mills, and you still have this thing that's gonna gun down anything that's on board.
Yeah, there's a lot of different options of building mill. Another option is the other new card is Garden Study for Gardens. Garden Study, which I think in mill generally would replace Flotsam Jetsam. Does work pretty well with blank pages because you get 3 individual mills. Mill 6.
Yeah.
Turns into mill 12.
Also works well with Spelling Secrets because it lets you get some extra card draws.
Yeah, so you can use Spelling Secrets to draw off the study, which is nice. Crack it a bit earlier. Is a bit weak to interaction, because if the study dies, you don't get any mail. But something that's too big of a deal with how well it works with blank pages. You can also play a study and delay the mails till we get blank pages out, which is nice.
Yeah, you even get to see what you're going to draw. So I mean, that's an additional benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. Just having a kind of pseudo scry 3 towards Spelling Secrets is absolutely very nice. Hard to understate how powerful Spelling Secrets is in some matchups. Well, really in every matchup, but
yeah,
some matchups in particular.
All right, that's enough about Mel.
Yeah, so we can talking about studies now. I guess on studying. So there are ways to abuse studies because you can put cards into them. So I think the easiest example of this is Graduate Bar Study. So whenever a player discards cards, so that's you or your opponent, you draw a card from the library. You can combine this with cards like Desert Worm, which whenever it's put into graveyard from anywhere, you can shuffle it into its own library, so you can shuffle it into Graduate Bar Study.
Wait, you have to use the shuffle.
Yeah, fun. Don't do this, but you can do it. So if you have 2 Desert Worms, you can discard them both, do a discard outlet. The names of them are forgetting me, but there's a blue one and a black one for 2 mana.
Ceaseless? No, it's something Stalker.
Unceasing Stalker?
It's just something Stalker, right?
Uh,
we also have Abominable Mongrel.
Yeah, Concealed Slasher, Abominable Mongrel. And then there's the one from VHS, Unseen.
Yeah.
So nobly Unseen Maniac, and then a Concealed Slasher also win if you discard enough. So you have 2 Desert Worms, you can throw them into Graduate Study, and then you draw one of them and you discard it, putting it back, and then you only have 1 study does die.
Does it? If you do it one at a time, I don't think it does. Oh wait, never mind. Yeah.
If the Desert Worm is the last card in the library, then
right.
It would, because I think this is a state-based action.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, you can do stuff like that. You can also do stuff like Crowning Student. The Crowning Student, put a bunch of fatigue in there.
I mean, we already did that with Encyclopedia, right?
Yeah, Encyclopedia, isn't it? Aside from OTH, basically a ton of things you can do with this. I don't think we're going to look too much at this, just because there's a ton of like random stuff that's very combo heavy and like maybe okay.
Yeah.
Probably if you want to do a whole bunch of stuff with studies, the best thing is probably like Loro study, which lets you draw from each of your archived libraries. So makes it into pretty efficient Phyrexian Arena type card.
Yeah, so like if you combine with some wheel effects like Priest of Tunu, then you can really abuse the fact that you're drawing a bunch of cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, Priest of Tunu especially because this is probably the cheapest and most efficient wheel effect that we'll get. Like Winds of Change, right? And that's not wheel.
Yeah, there's also
Witch of Spring's Promise or
yeah, Dang was thinking of.
Well, Damian discards, right? So it doesn't shuffle.
Oh, that is true. Yeah, you can use Priest of Tunu. Yeah, I guess Priest of Tunu probably goes vaguely infinite with a number of these. Then Witch of Spring's Promise too. That shuffles first, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can potentially get pretty nasty with some of these studies. The Blava study, the Blavas, you a whole bunch of insects. But Blava study also goes infinite with, well, not infinite, but works really well. Simon's Grove, whenever you make a token, you can draw a card. Whenever you draw a card, you can make a token.
The MP to study right away.
Yeah. Blava study is also not crazy, just as a late game value tool.
And Damian study is also another study that triggers on a draw. So I mean, if you're playing with Priest of Tunu and have a way to keep wheeling your hand into there, then your opponent's going to have to really take the torment.
Yeah.
Jozel study or Jozel's study, that one's interesting because it got an emergency nerf before the GP.
Yeah, one if Chattanooga. There's a bunch of these studies are kind of wacky in general. Generally they require at least like 2 cards set up, and like we're talking about Priest of Tunu, but Priest of Tunu needs instant sorceries, so studies all enchantments. So
yeah,
it just requires some match setup.
But that's enough combo bait.
Yeah. So on have Buzzers played, which is alright, control-y type one con, I guess.
So it's like expensive and it doesn't even extract properly.
Yeah, so well basically you name something they have like one of. You can name like a land or something. And then they mill until they hit it. If they do need to hit it, normally. And that should be like half a deck.
What if they don't have it?
Then you chose poorly. You can also target yourself because it does put in the graveyard. So,
right. So 6 mana millers. Yeah, that's way too expensive.
Yeah, I suppose we're saying that we're getting away from combo bait, but I suppose this is also kind of combo bait too.
It's really bad combo bait.
Yeah, it's not great. Actually, I guess we have more combo bait. Huh?
Oh.
So it was a Visilaca.
Yeah.
So over here is the -1, which can gain a bunch of life. You target something like
Ragman Crusher, right?
Yeah. Ragman Crusher costs 17. You discard it somehow. You -1, you gain 17. Or whoops, no, you don't. You don't gain 17. You play God. Black. Switching is hard. I'll get there eventually. Harbinger.
Yeah.
Non-invertive Harbingers. It's like 17 colorless mana, and you like play a fireball or something. I don't know.
That's that's 3 pieces already, and one of them has to be in the yard.
Oh yeah, I think that's pricey pay.
Both of the 3 drops have to be in play.
Well, so the thing is that there's at least like some amount of just like raw utility here.
So you plus, and then you're put into really bad Liliana's Last Hope.
Well, I mean, you say bad Liliana's Last Hope, but I mean Liliana's Last Hope is like pretty good.
Yeah,
but this is also Grave Hate, which is nice. Grave Hate and Life Gain are just like generally good things to have access to.
So like the Sackbow philosophy.
Sackbow is obviously a bit better with threat, but
I mean, this is also a threat if it sticks, right? It's a planeswalker.
True. Definitely that -6 is definitely like scary.
And it's scary. It doesn't affect the board.
Well, I mean, yeah, you draw like 10. Like I don't know. You say it's not scary, but then like Gristlebrand is one of the best cards. Like
Gristlebrand's only scary because it has lifelink.
Oh, that's opinion. Not sure how much that's real. I mean, Lifelink is good, yeah, but
I mean, in the combo decks that was okay. Yeah, I'll stop talking.
I think Crossover Run is yeah, even without life. Yeah, always important, but
Yeah.
so that's like pretty good utility. You can throw offies and random graveyard value and reprise and range approaches and
Yeah, and you can gain some life off that.
so that's just kind of nice. Obviously, is like you probably don't want to just play this in general, but not too unreasonable.
It's combo bait.
Yeah, and then Harbinger is does completely prevent life gain. You are forced to get the colors, but it is a three mana 3/3, which isn't too bad. And then Kaigban Crusher is like a playable card. Obviously, you're probably not setting up super well, but it is playable.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's get out of home beta for this.
Isn't this also combo bait?
I mean, okay, so option draw picks up, you get to loot a bunch. This is where it'd be combo bait.
Yes.
It's just not filtering though.
Yeah.
And then you can turn it into a phoenix. So kind of like a body soul, kind of.
I guess. Yeah, like the problem is that deleting it is kind of expensive if you want to activate a bunch.
I mean, you play turn 1, you tap it, turn 2, you tap it, you play counter spell something, turn 3, you get to play as many
You have to activate a bunch of faithless lootings. Wait, the faithless lootings, but in the wrong order.
dready pluses, I guess.
No,
Season Pyromancer.
yeah, Season Pyromancer ETBs.
Oh, I mean, that gives you tokens.
Right, Rogar ETBs? No, wait, does Rogar?
Virgo doesn't loot, I think.
Okay, yeah.
But like once you get into like three counters on this, like looting 3 is a lot if you're just like playing this in like a more controlling style deck.
Right.
And it also is also filling it with graveyard pretty enormously.
Yeah, so you have to play in the fair graveyard deck because it's just too slow for dedicated graveyard decks.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to play this in specifically graveyard deck, but to be like pretty reasonable.
It's not looting, it's rummaging. You need to have that many cards in hand first.
Yeah, but I mean, you can also just loot away lands. Like, obviously, you can't afford to play like I don't even know what the style of control is called, but just like out control. You're just playing something every turn.
Yeah.
But being able to do that every turn is very nice. I mean, Dak Faden is also drawing this card, but Dak Faden does a really incredible amount of filtering.
Yeah.
And this also does win you the game eventually, if you're not winning.
I mean, I think it does stuff, but it's not gonna. I feel like it's the sort of cards that won't see play because it's just not specific enough in what it does.
Yeah, that's fair. It is also really bad as a top deck. Though I guess if you have one in play, then you can loot away.
Yeah.
Nice. But moving on, we have a card that we know is pretty good because it's seeing a bunch of GP play. We have Tanya lead the pack, or maybe more, probably better to talk about the flip side first.
Yes.
So, low face card, backside costs 2 red, +1 turns into 3/1 first strike, -2 is a bolt to not face, and then -4 kills non-basic colorless.
So basically, artifacts and lands.
Yep. So this is a pretty reasonable 2-drop.
I agree. It's a 3/1 first striker. So, interestingly enough, it doesn't have the damage prevention tag that most planeswalker creatures have, right? Or does it not become a planes? Does it become a creature instead of planeswalker?
Yeah, it's just straight creature. So
okay.
If it takes 1 damage, it dies.
Yeah.
If it gets -1/-1, it dies. So it's just a creature. That does mean it's very easy to kill. But at the same time, you can also, if you're concerned that tiny dying, you can just use it as a bolt.
Yeah. I mean, 2-mana bolts, a big red's full of them, and they always appreciate more bolts.
Yeah, helps deck building quite a bit, just having that removal on top of being a threat. The big red also didn't have that many drops that they were super happy playing, so this helps in that respect too.
Yeah, I guess Tanya, I mean, as a planeswalker, Tanya does have summoning sickness in a way, because you can't -2 right away unless you want it to die.
Yeah.
So I guess that's something to mention.
Yeah,
it's a slow planeswalker.
Yeah. Also, the +1 does force it to become a creature. So if your opponent has a risk placing, they can kill it.
Oof.
So really vulnerable. Also, just general planeswalker dies to everything kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Then you have the flip side, which also pretty reasonable.
+2 protects itself. A -3 also protects itself, and -8 whacks the opponent for a bunch.
So yeah, the +2 first strike and haste. First strike is pretty nice. Also +2 is pretty large, so you can +2/+2 then alt, which the alt probably it's not like super game winning, but it probably wins most games, I guess, is the way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to take 10, right?
Yeah, probably not. And if your opponent's winning after they take 10, then, well, maybe you should reconsider your strategy at least a little bit. And then the Wrath is also nice in matchups that want Wrath. So you only have two, so it's kind of like two reasonable cards still together. Also, notably, the 2-mana Tanya is castable off MSEM Antiquities.
Didn't expect that, honestly, when I first saw the card or saw the interaction.
Yeah, so and that can create some pretty nasty draws in Big Red.
Did you make an example of it? Just the last game you played, where you used.
In both games 1 and games 3 against Vilni LD control, I went turn 2 Sizzle Mage MSA of Antiquities, recast Tanya on turn 2.
Yeah, I mean, how do you even answer that as a control deck?
Well, you single.
As a non-blue control deck.
Oh, you play some interaction, I guess. Like, Tanya can risk placing. You can just kill the MSA, right?
Right, but you were on the play, so.
Yeah, you just hope they don't draw. Is pretty rough. But Tanya is just very good card. I think all 6 of the abilities are relevant, which is nice.
Yeah.
But moving on, we have Sociable Giant, which is, I guess, kind of combo bait.
Yeah, feel like it's not good in creature vomit. Like, or I feel like it's just worse than other creature vomit payoffs.
That's true. Wait, what's the convoke guy?
Magistrate.
We have the Magistrate, which really I don't find Magistrate to be great in creature element. Social Giant, you don't need things to be untapped, which is nice. You can pass it off of what should we call it? Witted Companion and other dorks.
Sure.
There's also Trample, which is definitely a downside with the Magistrate.
Well, the problem here is that you really need a 7/7 in creature vomit.
I guess not.
And like, if you're not playing creature vomit, then how are you getting 7 creatures?
There. So let's move on to Unsuspecting.
How unexpected. Yeah.
So
it looks bad compared to the other two.
Yeah, I think unlike Unraveling and Unrelenting, all 4 modes are pretty mediocre, I guess. They're like worth 2 mana or less. I think
Well, the first and fourth modes, I don't think they're even worth a single mana.
Yeah. But I do think the third mode, on top 3 permanents, is relevant. Because you can definitely make an attempt at Mindstorming with this card. So you can untap 3 lands. The lands hopefully have Landors on them. You can play like Song of Shoals and Primal Surgeons and whatnot. Get a whole bunch of mana. Nobody Unsuspecting is also castable off Conjure Realities.
Yeah.
So it's easier to get multiple in yard.
So that's like one advantage it has over Fulfill Twisted Dreams and what's the other option? Rejuvenation? Like just vanilla rejuvenation?
Yeah, so there's Fulfill Twisted Dreams and Rejuve. Does have like at least the other modes are definitely potentially relevant. The first 2 modes imbalance and or put a Ramsey into play, which is nice.
Yeah, land ramps you.
And also, having incidental life gain on a combo piece is pretty nice too.
Are you 3-mana game for life?
It's not great, but if you need to use it,
are you using your first Unsuspecting just to game for life?
Sure. Like if you're against Burn, you can multiple. It's like, oh yeah, throw one out. If you're waiting for land drops, whatnot. Like it's not good, but having the option is very nice, even if it was not that big of a number. Moving on. Nsimi.
I think you got that correct.
Nsimi Skydart. The only reason I'm mentioning this is because I did a search for legendary artifact enchantment hate when I was playing Vesper Legends, and there wasn't any. So yeah.
3-mana kill an artifact or enchantment.
That's about all I wanted to mention with this card.
This thing does synergize with the loyalty lands because now the mice can kill her.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's kind of hard to use. Not too many decks want the plus, and plus is like alright, but kind of hard to want.
Yeah.
There's other better options if you want the plus. Then moving on, we have Okus, the Fabulous Hat. There's some cosmic horror or something.
So we have Solar Temptation on the Planeswalker. Is that too fragile? Like compared to Solar being a creature? Like which one's more fragile? Planeswalkers or creatures?
Solar, right? Okay.
Okay, our Solar in the formats, which has word too.
Caesar.
Yeah.
I mean, I think even then with the War 2, it's Okus is harder to kill. Just because like the creature does use steel protects Okus.
Right.
Also, Okus can still planeswalkers too.
Right. It can steal planeswalkers.
Which is definitely really valuable in some matchups. You do also +1, same time it's 5 mana as opposed to 4. Also, isn't as it's like reasonably tutorable, though probably not as tutorable as Cecil is. Because you have stuff like one cohort,
yeah,
and other legendary tutors.
And +1 does protect it pretty well.
Yeah,
+1 seems really annoying to play against.
Yeah, it does get out of hand pretty fast. And the -2 is also really nice. I will admit. Again, instant life gain, pretty valuable. And also, I think Okus can actually just win the game pretty fast.
What do you mean?
So what, you Okus steal their like 3-drop or whatever.
Right.
Then you +1 to get at least one enchantment.
What do you stick the enchantment onto?
Whatever else they have.
Okay. Well, you have to stick onto something, right?
Yeah. And then if you have like 1 or 2 other enchantments, then like -2 twice is 6 damage. The 3-drop can start hitting them.
Right.
So I think as far as like planeswalkers that like win the game, I don't think Okus is that much slower than like say Xanagan.
Right.
Just because you can -2 multiple times.
Yeah.
And the EDB does start hitting your opponent, presumably.
All right. Yeah, I think I'm sold. I guess it might be a good slot into the sort of control decks or the planeswalker 5-drop. Yeah, the 5-drop planeswalker slot in control decks.
Yeah, it is a really contested slot because you have Xanagan and Seto-san. There's also a Jozel, which we'll talk. I guess we can talk about Jozel now.
I mean, we also have, and if you're going to other colors, there's also other options.
Yeah. Oh, there's also like When Mary.
Yeah, actually, yeah, when Mary directly competes with Jozel, right?
Yeah. Though, pretty different card, but
The same slot, yeah.
So, Jozel. So +2 is just flicker. The +2 is nice. -2 is more or less just. I think most of the time you're able to get the -2 off. Any opponent won't have mana for it.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to play around -2, it seems really annoying too.
Yeah. You can't really tap out against it. It doesn't kill tokens, but the +2 kills tokens. So
yeah, I mean, I think the -2 will whiff if like it's a top deck war and your opponent and both players are flooding out.
yeah, on like particularly small things, definitely not too unreasonable for it to not work. But in that case, you just plus. So,
Yeah,
which a million isn't great.
but you're plussing towards a -5, which
is largely just a better version of Ico Emblem.
well, you can just -5 after a single plus and it'll survive.
Yeah.
Or actually, you can like -5 if you have a loyalty land immediately.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just straight up the same way as Ico, but it steals instead of exiles.
Maybe you can build a deck around this, just trying to alt this as fast as possible, and then play a bunch of blink cards, start stealing stuff.
Yeah, I can see that. If you are using a loyalty land to do it, it's pretty slow. I mean, it's on turn 6.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're playing it in Super Friends, you have Moon Chaser to put counters onto this.
Yeah, but I feel like it's better because you can get more impactful ultimates, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like Ico's ultimate is good enough as is. Jozel is just too much extra. You don't need the extra stuff because
Yeah, I think if you're using the Jozel with the ultimate, you probably just want Ico.
yeah,
Because Ico is like really a solid all around card with access to -3. It's like bottom blood.
yeah. So I guess you're just using Jozel as a 5-drop mid range thing.
Yeah, I think you're using it for the -2 in particular.
Yeah.
It's also like the +2 is also cheaper than Ico if you are using it on your own things.
Yeah.
So like you can even like -2 a loyalty land to go up to 7 loyalty, which is kind of neat.
Yeah. I think it probably does. It probably is better than when Mary in the slot because the -2 is really annoying to deal with. If you're like in those matchups, the -2 will flip the game way more often than Mary does.
Yeah, but you also can be like Seto-san, which like that +1 is hard to underestimate.
Yeah, and the -2 wipes the board.
It doesn't quite write the board,
It
but
sometimes wipes the board.
it is definitely a decent removal. And you also have Xanagan, which gains much life.
And the -3 gets you back into the game.
Yeah, like both Seto-san and Xanagan's pluses gaining life is definitely a huge deal compared to Jozel. And when married, also has the fog mode.
Yeah.
I think that's enough on the nth 5-mana planeswalker that you can play if you want.
Yeah. All right, time for something more exciting.
So Ante Up, which
we did do the math on.
we pretend to do the math on it. So basically, you're 50% to get one card from each deck. You're 25% to get two cards from each deck, and then you're like 25% to get more than two.
And that's in addition to the one that you get normally.
No, that's including. So 50% to hit a tails and just get one card from each, right?
Right.
I think that ends up being a bit less than two in general. Well, yeah, a bit less than two cards.
So yeah, I don't think it's great.
I think it's like not bad if you just want raw card advantage, because it does steal from your opponent's deck, which is worse than your own deck. But you are hitting your own deck. It does let you play lands.
Right. So that smooths over some of the uncastable stuff.
So if we just like ignore the coin flipping part and just say that yeah, XL is the top two from both decks, I think it's like fairly reasonable.
Well, sure, but what deck wants to play it? Because I feel like the mid range, like right now, it's only going to be good in mid range decks because they want to cast stuff from from the opponent, and mid range decks already have enough card advantage as is.
I mean, do they?
Well, I mean, what? So red black mid range decks. So we're looking at stuff like whole decks, right?
Yeah, so Shiho would. I suppose this is the same slot as Sophia, I guess. Sophia, maybe Shiho, arguably.
Yeah. Are we also playing Purplemurasaki in the deck?
I mean, you don't need to, so I'd say probably not.
Well, yeah. I guess I could see it.
Like, it's also a Fire Weaver target, which
Oh
is.
yeah, it is Fire Weaver time. Yeah, that makes sense.
I think it's the best card advantage Fire Weaver card.
Don't you already have Tentative Grove?
I mean, Turn Grove is like not like okay, I guess.
And Tentative Grove is 2 for 1, right?
Yeah, but you don't always want the ramp. If you have like five lands, you just put
Right.
more cards. You Fire Weaver Ante Up.
I mean, is it better than Fire Flame Colors Command? Because I remember Splash Cat running that in their board.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, Amelie hitting tails in the first one is pretty bad, but
In Tails, so you still get to draw 2 cards, or quote unquote draw 2 cards.
yeah, but that's like not great. Definitely don't want to be playing divination and construction nowadays.
It's instant speed divination.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what would make you know what would make the card better? If it made a treasure in addition to what it did.
Yeah, just like
Yeah.
yeah, but I think that's enough on Ante Up. Maybe it's more odd. We have another. Shianne study.
Yeah. So creature vomit top end.
Maybe.
This creature, I mean, so creature vomit used to run endless helpless souls before it got nerfed, and that was basically good. That was a really good refill for when it was running out of things in hand, and it was also running Brothers Union, which also 2 for 1. So
Well, so the problem with these comparisons is that both those cards put everything into play.
yeah,
So
but they also
mana
gave you
cost.
this thing. I mean,
I don't think this is mana positive.
okay, but 7 cards. That's way more than what EHS does.
That's true, but so with Sociable Giant, we're talking about it being really hard to get seven creatures, right?
Yeah, but 5 creatures is a lot easier because that's what Gillo needs, and Gillo turns out all the time in creature vomit.
Yeah, but can you get five creatures in play when you're playing this as a 3-drop?
Well, good question. If you try really hard, then yes.
If you believe enough, you can.
Right.
Because you can't really like sequencing wise, how would you be playing this? Because you could just play on turn 3 and then set it up on future turns, but it's not like even Sociable Giant, you only need to hit it once, right?
Right.
Whereas here, well, you need to hit it and have mana left over to start actually using the archive.
Right.
So it's not like you get it and then it's guaranteed the following turns. Right?
So I think you just do creature vomit things normally, and then once you start running out of things, then you play this, which actually sounds really bad now I think about it, because if it's running out of things, then things have already gone pretty wrong for creature vomit.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously if you get hit by Wrath, you lose.
Whereas EHS lets you beat the first Wrath.
Yeah.
That's what makes creature vomit so strong.
Maybe it's potentially just like a combo card where it's like, yeah, you can your combo vaguely involves getting a whole bunch of creatures just by how the combo works. And then,
do you want to play this thing in combo deck though?
I mean, maybe then you like just like if you assume that you can get the condition and you can play this in a combo deck, you win, right?
I've seen people whiff off Grasp for Understanding before.
You have, I haven't. I mean, yeah, you can whip up hard crisps and stuff, but it doesn't take that much to win off 7 cards.
Sure, but all right, let's move on. We've talked enough about combo bait.
So then we have Shenanigans Guardian. This card's like kind of peculiar, I think. Like this strikes me as like a older design, I guess. Like this is kind of card I'd be expected to like be printed like Ravnica. Is that
OG
right?
Ravnica
Yeah,
or
OG Ravnica.
I don't think OG Ravnica had 3 mana 3/4s.
Well, yeah, just like how the ability lines up.
Right, yeah.
So it's kind of like I don't think we have like that push of this kind of style of effect. I think generally there's been a push away from like whenever something else comes into play, you can pay mana effects.
So why are you bringing this card up?
So the thing is, so what I'll argue about this card is that it's actually like reasonably efficient in a lot of ways. Just as so of course 3/3/4. Nobody has it's a warrior, and warrior tribal has been getting some attention recently.
Yeah, but this is not the right kind of warrior for that warrior tribal deck because it doesn't care about being sacked.
Yeah, so there's the sacrifice warriors. We did talk about just general warrior tribal in Road to Kapimaru.
Yeah, but turns out the general warriors are still being played in the sack warriors deck.
Oh yeah, but there is some like launch cavalry which aren't being played yet, which we mentioned. But this is a couple. But so warrior tag is nice. But this is also just like reasonable at like most points in the curve, which is kind of weird. Because if you just play it on turn 3, it's like a decent stat line. It's not impressive. It's like Uzubaji obviously is kind of nuts.
Yeah, or Glory Bound Chorister.
Yeah. But the thing is that scales like reasonably well. So if you just like 6 mana, it's bolting as well.
Right.
And having a bolt attached to creatures is like really good. And if it's in play, then it's a decent threat. So if you have this and you have 5 mana, play 5 Dance of Leech, boom, bolt, 5 damage.
Oh yeah, wait, that sounds hilarious.
5 Dance of Leech, warrior, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
It's also from the set.
Oh yeah, there's a bunch of cards from the set that got printed in other sets too. I think even there's another card submitted this period which had a card from the set. So I think there's a reasonable case for this as like a 2 or something. In more stompy style decks.
Yeah, I guess. I feel like this card just doesn't impress me that much because I feel like once you're paying for it, it just doesn't seem super efficient mana wise.
Yeah, it's not like super efficient, but I think it might just be efficient enough for it to be reasonable. Let's see. So actually have the Flock Arrives, which is it's kind of in a category of cards I like to refer to as like screw you high end. It's like, yeah, you play this and your opponent goes, well, yeah, I guess I lost. Like yeah, you put this in your deck for it to do this.
Does that also include ramp targets?
Yeah, Time Tributes maybe is probably a similar thing where it's like, yeah, okay, they played the Tyrant, yeah, I'll start considering scooping you up.
Well, no, the Tyrant's even better at that because now they have to think about how to divide their piles. What they're thinking about if they want to scoop or not.
Yeah. And this is kind of that for the Tyrant, obviously, not. This is kind of that for control decks.
Yes. So pull up everything and then draw a bunch of cards.
Yeah, because like what? How many cards are this drawing? How many cards
5?
are there? 5. So what? Planeswalker, creature, land, instant sorcery.
Wait, 7. 7 card types.
How many?
There's 7 card types,
Yeah,
but only 5 permanent card types. That's what I was getting confused on.
Oh yeah. And then maybe enchantment, artifact.
Actually, Planeswalker is not guaranteed, right? Unless you're also playing those.
Yeah. I mean, generally you can run a couple planeswalkers in your control deck, no issue.
Yeah, might as well run some random enchantments and artifacts to guarantee that you get the 7 cards off this thing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you necessarily want to build around this because really, when you're wrapping the board and drawing 5, I think in your control deck, I think you're generally doing pretty well. But
yeah, but maybe you're at 3 life and your plumps on burn.
Then the extra cards don't matter, huh?
Yeah.
But it's just a card that like is kind of like, well, yeah, you can play this and it will win the game when you cast it. How many matchups you need this to win the game in? I don't know. I mean, does this win against Ramp? Right.
I think it does win against Ramp, right? No, it doesn't blow up lands. So no, it does not win against Ramp. Because if your opponent taps out for this, then you're just gonna slam Time Tributes next turn.
Yeah, but I mean they blow up all your primal dominions and
Primal Resurgence. I mean the new ramp decks don't really ramp with primal, right? They ramp with Burn Sanctuary plus Rubat, yeah.
And I mean as far as like beating a Tyrant Tributes goes, I feel like just drawing 7 cards or 5 cards or whatever might be enough.
All right, what's next?
Ursal's Intervention. This card's a bit weird because I actually put this as a 4 in a deck and deck list with it. And I've actually cast it.
This looks bad.
Well, I mean, why does it look bad?
Because it's a 3-mana combat trick.
Yeah, but you draw like 2 cards and you get hexproof and double strike.
Maybe this isn't as bad as I thought.
So what? I was playing it with yeah, read my searching is Green Cloud Seeker. There we go.
Ah.
So Green Cloud Seeker gets counters from your movements, and that bypasses the toughness setting of Hursars. It gets +1/+1 from the Hursars. So and then it gets double strike. And yeah.
Okay. I guess like it might be good in specific decks that want it, but generally like it's not a very extractive card.
Yeah, it's not. It does give hexproof, so is like at least reasonable base. Oh, I guess not reasonable, but
A 3-mana hexproof is a lot worse than 1-mana hexproof.
yeah, definitely.
And you really don't want to use it reactively to give hexproof.
But if you do get it off, then it does do a ton of damage and refill your hand a piece of it.
Yeah.
Next, I have Onya the Gilded, which is another kind of Superfriends that's called. Maybe better in module mid-range type decks, but just generally it has a ton of value. Actually.
Yeah. So it's also interesting as an all minus planeswalker. Usually you're going to be -3 because for 4 mana for a lightning helix plus a tutor. That's already a 2-for-1.
Yeah. The -1 is also pretty good. Draw 2, pay 2.
Yeah, that's also a 2-for-1. It's just lots of value.
Yeah, it is really pretty clunky. Lightning Helix is like a decent card, but 4 mana at sorcery speed, it's.
I mean, does Amulet do that pretty often?
Sometimes I think with Amulet, a lot of times you're not doing full. Mostly you're doing like -1 or something,
Right.
or just plussing.
Yeah. Well, with Anya, I guess you can just you -2 and then you -3 if you need to, or -1. I mean,
yeah,
the -2 is kind of useless, probably.
Yeah, -2 is very underpowered compared to the other 2 abilities. And then you can search for Edo-san or Xanagan or Dawson or.
Yeah, so it actually does curve pretty well into them.
Yeah.
So yeah, just drop this into your Mardu mid-range deck and have fun with your 2-for-1s.
Yeah. Okay. So now we have Last Request. But was changed from 3 mana to 4.
It's bad now.
I don't know if I agree with that, to be completely honest. Because so what? There's 7 card types, right?
Yeah.
So you can just 7. So it's a 4 mana draw 7.
No, there's actually 8 card types because there's also tribal.
Yeah, that is true. There's actually a tribal card in the set. It's not very good. But this is. I think you can reasonably say this is about a 4 mana draw 4.5.
Are you sure? I feel like it's going to whiff really often.
Because what? You have land, creature, artifact, enchantment, sorcery, instant, planeswalker. It feels like none of those are hard to put in your deck. I mean, I guess artifact, enchantment might not be.
Wait, this card reminds me of another card from another format that I've played recently. It reminds me of Grand Consonants from Rev.
Yeah, that does put them in play, though.
So that card, do you have the Rev search up, or is Grand Consonants?
I mean, I guess.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't hit non-creature or non-permanents.
But this is actually a pretty good example, or it gives me a pretty good sample of what you can expect to hit when you play that card. When you play the 7, look at 7, and then get different card types.
Yeah, so this one gets permanent types. So yeah. And how many cards is it?
It hits 3 on average in the deck I'm playing it in. But of the 3 cards that it hits, one of them is usually a 7-mana creature, so I usually just win the game afterwards.
Yeah, so if there's a thing 3, I imagine with instant sorcery, because obviously this is sorcery, so it can hit itself. You're pretty easily hitting 4 or more.
I guess. Well, you have to also add some instants and sorceries into the deck.
That seems really easy.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie.
And then with Grand Consonants, I'm only running around 3 artifacts and 6 enchantments, so I don't even have a super diverse spread, and I'm still hitting 3 things consistently.
Yeah. So and also this can hit itself, so it's not a blank.
Yeah.
So just doing a quick run of cards that work with this. I mean, Tanya obviously is really easy to throw in decks. Ragvan Obviously, a lot of decks like playing Ragavan. Let's see. Are there any other like easy to throw in creatures?
Pain Dance? No, wait, that's not.
Not super easy to learn. Let's see. Obviously, you have instant sorcery feels pretty easy in general. This is sorcery. But of course, you have off E, you have Scorch, you have Rogger's Gamut, you have Burning Up. Burning Up is nice sorcery instant that's secretly a sorcery.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's the way around. You have Mystery of the Craftcraft, which does want a high sorcery count, but if you're playing Master Spect, that feels like not that big a deal.
Yeah.
Increasing enchantment count. Let's see, Planeswalkers. I guess there's not that many rogue Planeswalkers, right? That are like super splashable.
Posey. No, wait, Posey's out. No.
What's the one that electrolyzes?
Fallman.
Yeah, Fallman. Yeah, so there's Fallman. Fallman's a pretty reasonable card to just throw on deck. If you need Planeswalker count, obviously it hits lands. Let's see. Oh, L is like a pretty reasonable throw in there. If you're doing any kind of Thunder Roads things, no, this curves into Thunder Road.
And this also finds Thunder Roads.
Yeah, so you turn for this, grab Thunder Road and whatever to enable it, and your fifth land.
Yeah.
And another last spread. Yes,
okay, I think I'm sold on this card. I mean, it's a bit slow as a format pure card draw card, but it does dig pretty deep, so I can see the appeal.
Yeah, also Primal Dominion, Primal Resurgent Shovel.
Yeah, well, are you playing Primal Resurgence in the 5-color deck?
Yeah, well, obviously these ends up being separate decks. But like in the Thunder Road deck, you probably don't play Tanya, for example, or Ragman. Well, I guess you could.
Well, people have tried.
Yeah, people have tried. You'd be playing more like L or Syncretic Master type cards instead. And nobody just hit up. So you're playing against a control deck that lets this resolve. Hey, yeah, you're going to draw 3 and hit it and get another last request.
Yeah.
Also, you're looking at 7s. So yeah, if you estimate a draw 4, draw 5, then that's better because it's looking at 7. So
yeah. All right, I think I'm pretty sold now on this card.
Also, you're mentioning about it being clunky as a format spell. The thing is that I think if you're playing 4 of this, you can just build around the fact that you can play this on turn 4. So you can really lower your curve with that in mind. So you can play a whole bunch of 1-drops because this is going to refill your hand so hard.
Right.
And is really consistent, and is like I think reasonably consistent about what it can hit.
Yeah.
So moving on, Smite the Unruly. So there's a cycle of 4 mana removal spell-esque things. I think Smite the Unruly is the best one in the set.
Yeah, I agree. The other one's a lot more conditional.
Yeah, so you have instant speed, which is really nice on a 4-mana card. Actually, throw in there. Exile target permanent, body looking great.
Get rid of anything, including lands.
Yeah, real nice dealing with Mono Queens or manlands or utility lands, or just mana screwing your opponent in general.
But you probably don't want to hit lands with this thing because it has an effect if you hit something that has a mana value.
Yeah, it whacks your opponent and you gain that much life, depending on mana value. I think this is obviously not going to be hitting that higher mana values most of the time. Like hitting 4 every time is probably optimistic. Hitting 3 is probably reasonable.
But I mean, it's hilarious against ramp decks because you can just kill them with the time trigger on the stack.
Yeah, absolutely. If your opponent has high end stuff, then like you laugh at them. I do think that the fact it's good enough that you can just like play 4 of this and expect it to win you the game sometimes.
Yeah. Well, you do have to back it up with some amount of aggression.
Yeah, you might need some burning ups or something. Burning up works very well with this because you're obviously 4 colors, 5 getting domain is pretty reasonable. And that's just a lot of damage by your opponent, and this gains you life, which is really nice.
Actually, I remember during the VHS review, you also talked about a similar card and about how it could be an aggro top end.
Oh yeah, I do not remember.
It's like Feeding Frenzy or something. Actually, just like search VHS. Violent Feeding.
Yeah, Violent Feeding. And this card I think is like pretty reasonable as a like aggro kind, and yeah, this is better. Well, 4 colors.
I mean, do 4-color aggro decks exist?
No. So yeah, definitely a bit different type of card.
Can 4-color aggro decks exist?
Probably not any that could cast this. Because tribal lands obviously work, but it work for creatures, but not for this. Yeah, but it is actually like not. I guess I was going to say it's not too easy to come across like considering life gain in 5 color decks, but you do have Thunder Road.
Yeah, and it does feel a similar slot to Thunder Road in that it like kills a bunch of things and gains you a bunch of life.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that you could just play both.
I mean that actually, yeah, good point. Use this to soften up your opponent for Thunder Roads.
And just like not play any high end, like just don't play anything over. Like,
I mean, Thunder Roads is technically high end, right?
yeah, but just like you don't have to play glitch or anything to actually like make sure you win the game. The Thunder Road is occasionally kind of sketchy win con.
Yeah.
If that's your sole win condition.
And with this plus Thunder Roads, I mean, you still lose the same things, but you lose less hard to them.
Yeah, well, you lose less to your challenge draw step. We only have another 4-mana card. We have Damian the Boss, which from Planeswalker this time.
So it's as it enters, you can pay 5 life, and then but this thing is a 4-mana 8 loyalty thing. So if you want loyalty counters floating around, then I mean he's your guy.
Yeah, and 8 loyalty is like really hard to deal with, especially because he dodges Pithwhirl in 4 cost.
Yeah, but this guy only minuses, so you're not going to go up in loyalty.
Yeah, but I think the most relevant thing here is the -1 actually.
Really?
Because in matchups where you're willing to pay 5 life, you can just -1 4 times, and that feels like it should win the game.
Yeah.
Because that is like +2 card advantage. And if your opponent can't deal with this, clearly you win. The -4 is like pretty solid too, though obviously you can't do it that often.
You pay 5 life and you -2 this guy, or -4 this guy 2 times.
Yeah, and that's like reasonable, but it is like relatively costly. But yeah, having the option to kill Infectors Ego or whatnot is nice. The -X is also nice. I imagine you basically never do X1 or more, just do 0.
And then you gain 3 life each turn, which is really annoying against aggressive decks.
Yeah, though Amelia, I think aggressive decks are fine against this card if you just a 4-mana card that gains 3 life every turn.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you make pay 2 life -4, it's in play, they need to kill it. Might be a reasonable thing to do. But
main problem is that's 4 colors.
Yeah.
I mean, that basically applies to all of the 4 color cards that we've been talking about so far, where it's hard for them to find home because.
I mean, you're talking about 5 color Super Friends.
Yeah. I think like 5 colors is actually easier than 4 colors.
Yeah, that's fair.
In this format, at least.
Like, Amelia can just, if this is like your only black card, for example, the mana does become quite a bit easier. Because you just grab black at whatever point it's convenient.
Yeah.
As opposed to 5 colors, which like you need to grab some colors in advance for 5 drop. But yeah, maybe this seems pretty good in Super Friends, just in general.
I agree.
A lot of Planeswalkers do gain life, so paying some seems reasonable. The Planeswalker, you have Experiment 0.
Not Experiment 1.
Kind of different card. So Ruberg Planeswalker, Beats with Glitch is going to be the most obvious thing.
Is there no other Wooburg Planeswalkers?
Oh, that's a good question. No.
Okay, so I guess it completes its glitch plus, I guess, Submerg if you want to really expand Wooburg to any Wooburg cards.
Yeah, or I guess Thunder Road or any of the 4 colored cards also compete with it a little bit.
Yeah. The interesting thing is this is a Planeswalker with Flash.
Yeah, so it has the Green Walker Orochi.
You mean the Wanderer?
Yeah,
the Wanderer.
the Orochi got fixed. The Wanderer text after Wanderer came out makes more sense to make it static rather than ETB. So Experience is kind of interesting. So -2 nobly gives Flash virtually. You can
right
freak out something.
He also has a random text of like instant speed on your turn for some reason, but I guess that's why.
Oh yeah. So you can flash this in and of your opponent's turn, Thunder Road, or I guess you don't want to really play glitch off this.
I mean, yeah, Thunder Roads is pretty fun.
There's obviously use glitch for reference, or just some rules spells, Smite the Unruly, whatever. I think the main thing about this card that's kind of like interesting number wise is that the -3 is a tutor, which is obviously really good in 5 color decks.
Yeah, reminds me of Veer, or yeah, the flip Veer.
But the problem is that you Vela,
yeah.
Really. Well, like, yeah, this -2 is really hard. But you can't go -2 into -3, and the +2 is occasionally, or I guess pretty frequently, blank.
Yeah.
So if the +2 isn't blank and you do kill something, this card's incredible, right?
Yeah, I mean it's sort of the same with Velia, right? If you well, no, it's sort of different, but
yeah, a bit different in Velia because you.
Oh wait, I think I'm talking about Big Velia.
Big Velia. This is
It also has to destroy something on a plus.
Yeah, but this is always active.
Right.
And also, it doesn't prevent you from doing anything in the same way that Expand Zero does. It obviously costs 2 more mana, so.
Yeah.
But there's a bit of awkwardness here because ideally you do want a minus if the +2 is blank, but then if the +2 is blank, then you're gonna need to +2 the next turn anyways.
Right.
And you don't really want a -2 twice, I imagine, in most cases. But it is still a really powerful card. I mean, just kind of play it -3 Judah is going to set you up really well for next turn. Minus the -2 does give you a lot of tempo. Potentially you can just -2 twice.
Yeah, and then you're up 5 mana at that point.
Yeah, and you do give a flash, and just even like getting flash in a deck that doesn't normally get it is pretty nice too. But that's the end of the spells from the set. Well, actually, yeah, I think there's some artifacts end.
It's the end of the colored cards.
Yeah.
Except for Aki, because all the colorless non-artifact cards are at the front for some reason.
A second. So, Box does have a cycle of Boltlands. You sort of seen those in custom Magic spaces for like a decade at this point.
I wouldn't be surprised. They're pretty obvious designs.
Yeah,
I mean, they don't have basic land types.
Yeah, not having basic land types is really important here, unlike the fetchable triumphs we have access to.
Yeah, you mean as of minions?
Yeah. So are these cards good enough?
I think the answer is no, because they're not fetchable.
So even just as a mana fixing card, and you just what if you just played 6 playsets and said I'm 5 colors?
Isn't this just worse than Nebula?
Yeah, but Nebula's messed up.
So you're playing this in addition to Nebula?
Yeah, okay, 5 playsets.
Okay.
Because you don't need, because unlike Dominions, you can have them entered untapped. They don't mess up your curve as much.
I guess you can play this. You can play these cards if you're only in those colors, and you need all 3 of those colors on the first turn.
So if you made poor deck building decisions, these help you. I suppose, yeah, definitely. Having 8 cards that let you cast 1-drops, as opposed to just 4 with Nebula, is actually a pretty heavy boon if you do have an unfortunate suite of 1-drops that you need to play.
I mean, otherwise you're usually just playing these guys tapped because you really don't want to pay the 3.
Yeah, I imagine so. And I guess at that point, the minions are quite a bit better. So, I mean, practically speaking, the minions cost you 2 life, right? Because if you're fetching them, you're fetching them.
Right.
So, I mean, they're all fetchable, so big upside there. But
I think they'll probably see play somewhere, but it won't be very frequent, and it'll be in very specific situations, or if the deck builder just doesn't know what they're doing.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe they won't see play because everyone hates building mana bases.
Don't you like building mana bases?
I mean, it took a long time for palaces to start catching on, but I was eventually figured out, hey, yeah, my mana straight up doesn't work for this deck. I need to actually get a better mana base, and then palaces are here to save the day. And palaces have been the format for a while. This was pretty recent.
Yeah, and palaces are painless mana base, are painless lands.
Painless, unquote.
They're painless in any way that matters. In certain decks.
Certain decks, yeah. But moving on, we do have a few other lands. We have 4-color manlands.
So the problem here is that these manlands want you to have 4 colors, but they also produce colorless.
Yeah, it's not great. So they'll have being activated ability, make them a creature, and then if you pay certain colors, they become stronger. There's a lot of text on them.
I agree. Some of the colors are useless, and some of the colors are way more useful than others.
Yeah, but just in the most powerful state, this is a 2/5 Death Touch lifelink. This is a 3/3 Vigilance Hexproof Trample. This is a functionally 4/4 First Strike Menace.
Yeah.
This is a 3/3 Indestructible, can't be blocked.
Which has anti-synergy.
And kind of a weird combination. This is a 8/8.
I think we can clearly see which one's the best.
Yeah, it's an 8/8 manland is pretty large.
I mean, it takes it takes 8 monument activation to get a monument to 8/8.
Yeah, I mean, monument has some other deck stuff initially.
Yeah, but what other mana can even get to 8/8 in the first place?
The OTH manland.
Oh yeah, Shrine of the World Shepherd.
Yeah, which I think that's pretty reasonable to get it to a 6/6 or 7/7.
Yeah, and it also costs the same amount to activate as the Throne.
Yeah. Well, green instead of black, but
same mana value to activate.
So I think the throne is probably the most playable just because you can just activate turn 5 Wacky Punt rate.
Yeah, and even if you don't have all the colors, you can whack them for 6.
Yeah, that's probably good enough because I think a lot of times that's being jumped. It does obviously compete with the fetchable manlands, which isn't great. Though merely in 4-color decks, it's fetchable manlands can be a bit sketchy just because you need to shoot you need double green or blue or whatever on top of manland.
Yeah, and also you don't have enough room in your mana base to play fetchables.
Yeah. Also, some colors don't have great fetchable manlands. I mean, the black manland is like a 1/4 death touch, which is not quite as good as a 3/3 flyer.
Or a 4/4 trampler.
I imagine the best way to play these are just play a 3-color deck and pull on Nebula or whatever to get the 4th color, just so that the colors line isn't as bad.
Yeah, you're playing these guys over Monument, right? Because I don't think you can support both.
Yeah, probably. I imagine these are going decks that don't really plan on going super late, because obviously Monument being activated in turn 5 is not very good, whereas Sociable Giant being activated in turn 5, yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, killed them in 2 swings.
Yeah, maybe there's an argument that you can fling Society's Turn.
What?
I mean, you can tap itself, so it's not as expensive, and then you fling it. I don't know if there's any good flings in the format, but it's something that came to mind. Moving on, we have Utility Lands. We mentioned Moonchaser,
Moonchaser Meadow.
We have Giant's Temple as the green one, which animates a non-land into something with square stats.
Which is actually a very interesting ability.
Yeah, I think unfortunately it's probably not that great, just because you need a bunch of things lying around that you're willing to animate, and it's kind of hard to have 3+ mana value permanents lying around.
Yeah. I mean, if you have something like that lying around, usually you've already won the game, and you'll need to animate it to get to the finish line.
Yeah, the problem is that getting into play is kind of rough, but actually, wait, does this protect Planeswalkers? Hold on.
Wait a minute. Wait.
So you have your Planeswalker, and then you activate it, and then it's like, oh no, Planeswalker anymore. I don't know if that's good or not. It's probably not.
I mean, it's format protected Planeswalker. I mean, that's not nothing.
Yeah, but you need to have 4 mana and a Planeswalker in play, which is
that a problem? If you can protect your Planeswalker turn after turn, you can just keep using it.
I guess that's fair, but it does become a creature which killable.
If they can't kill Planeswalker, what makes you think they can kill a creature?
Do they have a new blade or something?
Oh. Okay, you just have to hope that they don't have it. You know what's more hilarious? You turn it into a creature and then it blocks for itself.
That's true.
Wait, can you do that? If you turn Planeswalker into a creature, does that automatically make everything attacking it not attacking anymore?
I do not know. I believe you can, though. Not so familiar. Something similar would happen with annihilated triggers, but I'm not actually sure what happens there.
Okay, I mean it's too niche to really matter.
Yeah,
the card is not going to be very played.
It does also animate creatures into something square stats. Could be like a Chikyu champion, whatever.
If you have Chikyu champion and you haven't won for some reason yet,
yeah, you can give it +8/+8.
You know, +8/+8 in case it matters compared to all the other things that it has on that's on the board right now.
But I don't think there's anything that's super play that has this kind of disparity in stats. Like a 5 mana 1/1, if that sees play, would really enjoy this. Or 6 mana 1/1 or 7 mana or whatever.
Yeah.
But generally, most things have pretty large stats.
Man, Power Creep is making this card bad.
Yeah. We have Inquisitor's Chamber, which is pretty efficient and pretty generally useful, I think.
It's a sack outlet on land. It even sacks any permanent. It's not just a creature sack outlet.
Yeah, it also sacks at instant speed, so response to removal spell.
And it's pretty cheap too, and even draws a card.
So lots of upside here. Is heavy black. Does also compete with Swarming Midden.
I mean, I don't think it goes in the same deck as Swarming Midden because I think you want to play Inquisitor Chamber in a deck that wants to sack.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking of the double black cost is kind of harsh if you're not in mono black, because you need double black on top of this being mono black land.
Right.
So chances are, I think if you're playing this, you probably can also play Swarming.
So is there anything super good to sack?
Yeah, well, I mean, you can sack Swarming Midden tokens.
Okay, yeah, but is there anything that you want to die? That you can't kill otherwise?
I mean, we mentioned Volatile Stonework.
Right.
Which I guess isn't a crazy thing. I could play 4 of this for Inquisition.
Actually, is
Inquisitor's Chamber.
Is like a red-black sack black enough to play Inquisitor's Chamber?
I don't know if there's a red black sacrifice.
I mean, there is, right?
Well, I mean, if eggs, I guess.
Yeah, eggs.
It feels like this is too slow for that kind of thing.
Right.
Plus, like playing Tapland in general is kind of rough.
I mean, they already play Cradle of Corruption, which
Yeah,
is fetchable.
the Crater of Corruption is a bit more powerful than Visitor's Chamber if you're getting off. It does kind of win the game.
Yeah.
Where spending 3 mana to draw a card, to sack a thing and draw a card is a bit less powerful.
Especially if you already have egg out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to play in some sort of deck that doesn't already have egg, but that still wants sacks.
I think you can just play in like a mid-rangey deck as a value land.
Right. And play a mid-rangey deck that conveniently also has things that you want to sack, like Secret of Untouched Beauty.
Do you need things that you want to sack?
I mean, ideally you want to have things that you want to sack so that it becomes way more synergistic.
But like, you can just sack things that are going to die anyways. Chump sack. I mean, it's
Oh
one.
yeah, right. Good point.
Extra lands.
Yeah.
Like,
okay, yeah. Maybe this thing's just more general than I thought.
Like what? 8 rack. 8 rack. That's what the deck is called, right? Some kind of Pox style deck maybe appreciates this.
Right.
But it's just like Tanya. You only need 2 lands in play, so because we'll play this. But it does need to be a deck that's like not super aggressive and can afford to play a tap land. It's a bit awkward.
Yeah.
Really kind of interesting. And is Moonshard Crater.
So 3 mana. Each player sacrifices non-basic land. Holy crap! It's Ponza.
So obviously is at least symmetric, because this is a non-basic land. I don't think you can make something basic. In hard.
Right. Yeah.
So this card's like really hard to evaluate for me because like okay, well, it is really expensive because tap land plus 3 mana plus itself, 4 mana kind of take the ability, and like obviously land destruction isn't tempo positive.
Yeah.
But at the same time, repeated land destruction does win games. So use will strip mine, get you stuff.
So then the question becomes, how reliably can you beat this? And I mean, I guess you can play it in a ramp deck that happens to have a lot of non-basic lands to attack, so you can keep grinding your opponent down repeatedly with this thing.
Yeah.
But then, like most ramp decks these days, play Primary Surgeons, so that's a problem.
Well, you're not gonna have to sack to promise it.
Yeah, but then you're gonna run out of non-basics and have to sack this thing.
Well, okay, but if you're running a non-basics, your opponent's definitely running a non-basics. You're probably playing more lands than they are.
Sure, I guess.
In addition, you can fetch sack fetch lands to this, which your opponent probably can't quite, but is less likely to be able to. So there's that kind of way of using the card. But I think you can also not unreasonable to just play this in more aggressive or more like mid-rangey stompy kind of style.
Really?
I mean, playing Ponzo, right?
Yeah, pawns up. So you're trying to ramp into land destruction, but if this is your only land destruction card, then that's not really a pawns up.
I mean, just play it in a mid-rangey shell, so to speak. Not sure if that's doable. I think people have tried, though I haven't seen a Ponza type shells not having access to like a Bloodbraid Elf type card.
Wait, well, there is a Bloodbraid. There's technically a Bloodbraid elf like card in set.
It's not quite as good as Bloodbraid Elf. Very few things are.
Yeah,
but if you can get an advantage and like force your opponent to answer your board, and then Moonshard Crater you a couple of times, kind of abuse your ramp in that way. But like Tender Grove, I think is good.
Actually, yeah, because it adds non-basic to the board, and actually, Smite Vault too. That thing wants to be sacked.
Smite Vault and Lily Grove. And Taylor Grove contains Gale Siege, so maybe that's doubling up a bit too much on basic land destruction.
Yeah, maybe you just need to play basic land destruction too.
Yeah. I think this card's really interesting. Obviously ET tapped isn't great, but it is like I think for this being able to like solo win games, it's like you're willing to have this discussion around playing a ETB tap line in a deck that doesn't really want one.
Yeah.
Moving on to artifacts. We have Recommissioned Ride, which is a 1 mana 3/3 menace.
This does not look very notable.
It's a 1 mana 3/3 menace.
But it's a vehicle.
Yeah, so you play a creature and you throw it.
Is a 1 mana 3/3 menace even good?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, because your opponent's 7 turns.
Okay, sure. But
like I've died to Smugglecopter.
Yeah, but Smugglecopter is 2 mana, and it's also actually good.
Yeah, well, yeah, this is 2 mana. There's a 1 mana. And 1 is like a third of 2.
Alright, so what are you looking? What are you seeing? You play turn 1, turn 2, you play a creature, and then you do this and swing?
Yes, that is.
Does that get you anywhere?
It gets you 3 damage.
Is that better than just playing an actual creature on turn 1?
Yeah, normally creatures aren't as good as 1-mana 3/3s.
Okay, sure. I guess this thing does do things.
And then you play a 3-drop, and then you crew it, and then you swing for 3 more.
Okay, sure.
Whoa, McCold, turn 4, you also play a creature, which can attack for 3.
So wait, you're just playing it as a creature, and is there any synergy?
I mean, I don't think there needs to be, like, just swing.
Okay, sure. So what deck are you looking to put this in?
Well, I don't know. Whatever deck wants, back with 3 menace.
I mean,
it's 2 power creatures on spin 2. So, I mean.
Does it already have any better synergies, you mean?
Yeah, sure. Definitely being a Ninja and Lost Stick isn't great. But, I mean, you can play this in mono red, like, or
Wait,
big red or whatever.
Wait, would you actually play this in big red?
I mean, totally good, yeah.
Huh.
Like, you don't have that many haste creatures, and when there's turn 2 Tanya crew.
What, you don't have any, you have Emissary, that's a haste creature.
Yeah, but that's the only haste creature, right?
Don't you also have Vicary Distant?
In sideboard, yeah.
Wait, is that all your haste creatures?
Yeah, so.
That's a lot less than I thought. But I guess all the fast damage also all come from burn, so
Yeah,
that's why it feels like you have a lot more haste creatures than normal.
Moment of the Flames approach, crew swing, like also says menace, so 2 menace combos menace.
Okay, but what do you cut for this? Doesn't Big Red already have enough?
No cuts, only adds. So Big Red has Sax and Dragman, which are better than this. Both those 1-drops are pretty great.
Yeah.
So the other 1-drop is Scorch. Maybe you probably don't want all 4. But there are Big Red tends to have some random 2-drops that they just play because they need curve filler.
Right.
So I think I was playing Freightport Market Smuggler, which could be got first. I guess it's not a reason to look it up. If you want, I'm not quite sure. Let me try and remember. There is robots in a artifact aggro synergy. Singing swords, wrongs. You do have stuff like Dance of Seal Song,
which conveniently uses the same art as Nsimi.
Yeah. So and that even rouses, making it a creature permanently.
It makes it a 0/0.
Does it reset power toughness?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe not. I mean, it still does get that happen.
Maybe there's vehicle synergy. Is there a vehicle aggro deck in the format?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's we don't have aggressive vehicles. Team Victros, they
I remember you typing that card up during the review.
Let's see. There's like solid amount of just like decent aggressive vehicles. I don't think there's a ton of great synergies with them. Wilson's Armada is kind of another one.
Yeah.
They don't really want to play that many vehicles. Wingsteed.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm surprised by the lack of vehicle scene play.
Doing Sky Thief, I guess.
What's the effect doing here?
Is it flying just because?
Yeah. Wait, that's Ilias. That's actually a playable vehicle.
Yeah, but it does want to ton legendaries, which Recommissioned Ride. That doesn't seem super legendary to me. Does maybe let you play Harriet, though. Maybe that's optimistic.
I don't think that's the right vehicle for Harriet to cheat in.
Let me try and remember if there's how much artifact energy there is. So Clockwork Outro does buff it, but doesn't crew it, unfortunately. Well, not natively.
Hey, Commanding Princess does crew it. That's pretty funny.
The self-replication crews it, which is pretty nice.
It also enables self-replication.
Yep, kind of double sanity there. Dovewash Guardian does crew it, unfortunately, artifact creature spell. High Power Lich crews it, also can be cast off it. Unspan Sigil is a really great card in general. They probably don't want to crew it with it, which just helps but it helps enable it.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit optimistic though. Maybe need another couple of robot payoffs.
Yeah.
So you do have a couple good 3-drops. Because you do have Hostile Crustacean, which is just +1/+1 for each artifact.
Which people keep talking about, but
Synchronous Battle Armor.
Right, that guy.
And then you also have who was the one from MSEM. You have Industries Masterpiece as well.
Yeah.
Which does appreciate it.
Well,
I think that's enough on that.
Okay. Last card, right?
Yeah. The last card has a sort of X and Y, sort of regs and riches.
It's 2 and 6, and then make a food and 2. Yeah, this seems bad.
But so projection for 2 or less, or 6 or more is probably irrelevant.
It sneaks under its high attributes.
That's true, depending upon how the time attributes. But the evasion on this is like pretty relevant. And only does fully pay for the equip cost with the treasure tokens,
Right.
as well as getting the food.
So I guess it lets things sneak past tokens and small things, then it ramps you and makes you food.
Well, that's you move around the board.
I guess. Well, actually, yeah. If you stick the sword on the top guy, it brick walls all the small guys.
Yeah, and then it also makes food to generate some amount of life, though mainly it's probably not too relevant.
Yeah, the card does do stuff, but I feel like it's not very playable. Like it doesn't do enough of what you want it to do, and also we already have enough good enchantments, or good equipment.
We do?
Shinchio, right?
Yeah, I mean, okay, yeah. If you compare it to Shianne, this card is kind of bonkers. It can even be a commander.
Ooh.
Yeah, you're turning into a 5/5 flying lifelink when it hits is a bit better.
I mean, it's colorless equip cost, but still.
Yeah. Doesn't force you being blue white too. Very nice.
But I don't think this thing's very good.
But that is the last card of the review, which I'm going for a while.
Yeah, wow, TM.
But yeah, a lot of pretty reasonable cards. I don't know if there's a lot of them are a bit narrow, if only on the mana cost even.
Yeah, I mean, this is what happens when you have a 4-color set.
Yeah, and especially with all the specific synergy pieces, like obviously all the Superfriends stuff is really narrow in terms of what decks you can throw it in. Then the studies, I mean, the studies aren't necessarily narrow, but I think a lot of times you're putting them in your deck to abuse them.
Yeah.
But any other comments? Any cards you're particularly excited for?
Well, I haven't played any cards in my decks. No, I don't think my rap deck plays any cards from the new set, right?
Yeah, I think you're experimenting more with cards from RCM.
Well, I did try to play Mabel Far Dancer. It sucks. Don't play her.
She's on has a vendetta. Maybe we'll wait for Hard Answers, the older version.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's not unreasonable,
but yeah, the deck I was trying to play it in a ramp deck, and this does not work very well in ramp.
Yeah, that's probably not an unreasonable call. I guess as far as your deck building is concerned, not a ton for ramp or 8-sack, so.
My deck building is basically ramp, 8-sack, and then wait. Yeah, do I have any? That's literally the only 2 decks I care about, because that's only 2 decks I've won. Actually, no, I also care about reviving Rejuvenationist Rejuve, because that's like the 3rd deck that I've won a GP with that got nerfed out of format.
Yeah, and so far it seems like Tanya is looking like the most impactful card of the set so far, just because it goes straight into a already very competitive deck.
And because you're actually playing it?
Yeah, definitely some other cards that could have major impacts, though.
If people actually played them?
Yeah, I suppose so. But a lot of stuff that I think a fair amount of cards here. I guess Blank Pages is also maybe worth mention. But all a good amount of cards that are kind of narrow. Maybe you play 1 or 2 versus the full 4 copies. Yeah, I suppose I do. I will probably be building a Last Quest at some point.
That'd be fun, because maybe no, wait, that's not going to be ramp or rejuvenationless. So, no, you're going to be able to rejuve with unsuspecting, right?
Maybe. I mean, that seems like a lot of effort. But,
okay.
Yeah, but I will probably be building Last Specs sometime in the next couple months. I think there's a lot of play to this card. I don't think it needs to be a instant or God, it would be broken. I think this card would be absolutely broken at 3 mana, obviously.
Wait, were you on council when you voted for this thing to be for 4 mana?
Yeah. But I think this is a card that you can definitely let you walk your deck building in such a way to let you do kind of wonky things.
To minimize the chances of it whiffing.
Yeah, well, I'm not even talking about like setting it up so it hits a lot. I'm saying building a deck in the same way that you can build a deck around like Time Twister.
Right.
Or like a fair quote unquote deck around Time Twister or Wheels, in that you can really where having a high end being card draw lets you really warp how your 1 to 3 drops work.
Right.
Because suddenly Scorch doesn't stick around your hand. No, it's an extra card again. Blast Respects, which is pointing at your opponent's face.
Right.
Or stuff like that.
Right.
I think that is all we have to say on this.
So let's conclude the review.